Hey, welcome to the Thereafter podcast. On this podcast, we highlight the culture of Orange County by interviewing community based organizations, business professionals, and local creatives. And today, we have an amazing organization to show you.
Okay, so this organization is very special to me and Armin. We are alumni of this organization, and it has had a crazy impact on the community for years on years and years, and a crazy impact on our lives especially. So this is a really cool special treat to be able to do this. This organization is called 100 Black Men. It's national. We were part of the Orange County chapter, and this is the chapter we're going to put a spotlight on today. They specialize in mentoring Black youth, growing them for this world, equipping them with the tools, teaching them respect, responsibility, what it means to take on manhood. With me today is a great man with you're like the pinnacle of hard work, integrity. He thinks I'm gassing him up right now, but this is really what I believe. Hard work, integrity. You had a great career with the Westminster Police Force.
I did.
And you were a commander
That's
in the
right.
police force. But also, he had a great role in the lives of many, many Black youth throughout the years with 100 Black Men Orange County. So without further ado, Bill Lewis.
Good to see you guys. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you. We're glad that you're here. We're excited. So let's get into it.
Okay.
How would you explain or describe 100 Black Men of Orange County, the organization, and what is their mission?
Well, I think you have to begin with starting about the national organization. So there's 100 Black Men of America, and there are lots of chapters. There's a total of about 100 chapters throughout the country, and a couple of international chapters, one in London and one in the Greek Kirkos Islands. Initially, the first chapter was formed in New York City, and a group of Black professionals was sitting around, men, and they were talking about their combined experience in education and life. And they said, wouldn't it be great if we could figure out a way to pass on what we have learned to the next generation? Some of the people that were part of that initial conversation was David Dinkins, who would go on to become the mayor of New York, and a gentleman by the name of Jackie Robinson. And so they decided, they said, wouldn't it be great if we could get like 100 professionals to pass their knowledge on to the next generation, and therefore the name. So the first chapter started in New York. Eventually, the national quarters moved to Georgia and Atlanta, and yeah, it went from that. The local chapter in Orange County started in, I believe, 1992. And when you become a chapter, you have to have programs and four main initiatives. And those initiatives are education, mentoring, health and wellness, and economic empowerment or economic development. And so the local chapter, when it started, the initial people were in it. It took them 2 years. They come up with the education and mentoring program. They did some research and they tried to figure out what demographic do we really want to focus on. And it was decided that we're going to go after young Black males. And the reason for that is because by any measure of success or issues like that, young Black men seem to be falling behind every demographic. Even young Black females, would seem to be leading in areas when it came to success, attending college, completing college, staying out of trouble, that kind of thing. So that's why I was decided to do the program. So in 95, I was reading an article in the Orange County Register, and it was talking about this new organization. And immediately the title caught my name, 100 Black Men. And for the record, there's not 100 of us. Every time I've gone someplace and did a talk, that was one of the first questions they asked. Our membership has hovered around 50 to 60. But anyway, I saw this article, and it caught my attention. And, I had been a police officer at the time, and I spent 38 years in law enforcement. And I thought, boy, it'd be nice to be able to do something for youth other than put handcuffs on them.
Right.
And so that got my attention. And I'd been involved in nonprofit work before that, but this hit closer to home for me.
Right.
So I went to a mixer, and I met the people in it, and they talked about what the organization was about. And our mentoring education program is called Passport to the Future, and it hadn't begun yet. They had just finished the format for it.
Gotcha.
And so they were just starting that up. And I said, well, that's something I certainly would like to be involved with. So that's how I became a member. 28 years later, I'm still there.
Do you remember who first recruited you?
Initially, Dr. Thomas Parham.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
You guys all remember Dr.
Yeah.
P. At the time, he was the vice chancellor at UCI. And I met him at the organization at the mixer. And you've interacted with him, so you know what I'm talking about. He's very infectious. He's very passionate about the program. He was one of the main creators of the Passport to the Future program, and and I left knowing I'd sign up for it. And so, like I said, I spent 28 years in the organization. I was on the board of directors for 19 of those years. I served 5 years as president of the organization.
Right.
And when we did the passport program, which we maybe talk about in more detail, I did the 9th grade class, so I saw all of you guys coming through.
Yeah.
And since then we've expanded the program. And so but I stayed with the 9th graders and, did that for 24 years. And then as we got new members in who wanted to get involved, then I just made way for them to get involved with that.
When you first got introduced to the program and you decided, yes, this is something I'm going to help out with, did you imagine that you would be there for what you said, 28 years?
No. No. And probably for the last 15 years, I said, okay, this is my last year.
Right.
And here I still am. And every time I threatened to do that, people say, no, you can't leave. And I still enjoy it.
Right.
And so and not doing the sessions anymore. I miss it a little bit. And the sessions that we do are, every other Saturday, starting in September. You guys went through it. You sat through those sessions, so you know what it's about. But the program has expanded a lot since you were involved.
Right.
And that's made it more interesting. We've always gathered kids from, because the Black community in Orange County is not that large.
No.
And so the members, the participants in the program have come primarily from Orange County. And at the same time, we've expanded by word of mouth. So maybe somebody lives in Orange County, but they've got a family member that lives in San Bernardino, or San Diego, or even LA, even though LA has a chapter,
right?
And they have a program.
Yeah.
But so we've gotten young people to come in from all over. Initially, in those first couple of years, we dealt with just the schools in the Irvine School District.
Gotcha.
And then we expanded to schools throughout the county. And that exponentially grew the program.
What was your summary at the beginning of what Black youth faced in Orange County? What were some of the obstacles they faced in Orange County then as compared to now? Are they the same? Are they similar? What are your years of experience in the police, and then also your years in the 100 mentoring Black youth? I just would like to pick your mind on that a little bit.
Well, the mission of the program is to help create socially conscious, responsible young men who can take advantage of life's opportunities while successfully navigating its pitfalls.
Right.
And so the reality of it is, and a lot of people who are not of color may not understand this, but we have to navigate the world just a little bit different. Mm-hmm. We have to think about things that maybe other folks don't have to think about,
right?
Especially Black males.
Yeah.
And that's reality.
That's reality.
That's reality. And so, but at the same time, the program encourages and preaches relationships is one of the main things we talked about. We have 6 areas of content and knowledge. You guys went through this.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, relationship, history, skill development, leadership, and community service. Because there was an expectation that all of you did some kind of community person. You give back, because we're not talking about teaching people to live just in a Black community.
Right.
We're talking about how to live in the greater community.
Yes. Yeah.
And navigate things that other people don't think about. Don't have to think about. And that's reality, even in 2024. I grew up in the Jim Crow South. And so If things changed since then, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But there's still some things I'd have to share with, you guys who went through the program. I had to share with my male sons, who are now adults. And that's the reality. I think, especially in an environment like Orange County, like because there's not a lot of Black folks. And one of the things the participants in the program would say to us, it was nice to be in an environment where there were more people that look like them. Now, we're not talking about segregating anybody.
Right.
That's not what the program is about.
Yeah.
But some of the experiences the young participants would have at their school, where they're one of only a few,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. You guys experienced that, so you know what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be able to take a breath and know that, you're in an environment you feel safe in.
Yeah.
That you don't have to feel like you have to be on guard.
Right.
Right.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that participants get out of the program.
Yeah, and a little off track, but it's serious business because it was 500 hours of community service per student. So we weren't playing games over there, and not to I'm a little extra, but not to take a hit at other organizations. I wasn't tying knots. I was getting in there. So, but yeah, I remember it was great because I went to, if you guys watched the other podcasts, we attended Mission High School, and at one point, half of the Black people that attended the school were related to me. So, it was cool. It was cool just to be able to, because everyone has culture, everyone has it was cool to be just surrounded by culture and backgrounds that understood intrinsically where I was coming from. And it was cool to have that type of place. And I think people never think about it, but if I am one of 3 or 4 Black people in a high school, and then everyone else's demographic is like a quarter to more, then you already have that without any extra effort. And so I think sometimes it's taken for granted.
You're right. It's like, take a breath. I mean, you just,
Right.
because without realizing it, you're kind of, I don't know how else to put it, but on guard.
Yeah.
There's always things you have to think about
Yes.
that other folks don't have to
There's
think
always
about.
a running dialogue
Don't have to
in
consider.
the back of your head. Yeah. Yep. That's very true. And I think it's extremely important, I think, just to see people who look like you, who have had some success and have navigated life in what others would deem a successful way.
Right.
And just seeing that right in front of you is, I think, really fundamental, especially during that time of your formative years.
Right.
Yeah, there was a bit, one of the things we have as part of the sessions run from September to May, basically the school year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And one of the sessions we have is what we call Career Day. And we have people who come back and talk about what they do and how they got into a certain career and what it takes to get in that career. And we have people who are doctors and lawyers and engineers and people who own their own business, a pastor. One year we had somebody come who was a Black stunt person. And he talked about who he had done stunts for in various movies and TV shows. And one of the mantras we have in the 100 is what they see is what they'll be.
Mm.
And so when you look at somebody, you never thought about, well, I didn't know that I could possibly be a stunt person,
Right.
or some of the other people we put forward. And now it's interesting because the program has been around for so long. Now we have people who went through the program who now come back and do Career Day, doctors, lawyers. And it's amazing to watch them because I remember these as kids, like my kids growing up. And that's kind of how I felt about all the participants. And it was kind of bittersweet when the seniors would leave, especially if we had them for like 4 years.
Right.
Because we literally watched you guys grow up.
Yeah.
Just like I was watching my kids grow up.
Yeah.
And my dreams and wishes for you were the same. And so it's always nice to hear what has happened with you down the years. I realize that some of you are in your 40s now. And that's that just reminds me how old I am. But that's joyous. And
He looks great.
and we don't take, when I think about how you guys have succeeded, obviously that's a testament to your parents and your family.
Right.
But I'd like to believe that we had a little bit to do with that.
I think a lot of it. I mean, what's the saying? It takes a village,
It
right?
takes a village.
And definitely for me and my family, you guys were a big part of our village.
Yeah, you guys were along for the ride because there were so many of you
Yeah.
that came through.
Yeah.
So I really got to know you and some other families who sent multiple people through the program. We were talking earlier, and it was funny to watch him. Now we do 7th grade to 12th grade. When you guys were participants, we did 9 through 12.
Right.
And it was interesting because, I won't deny the audience, they didn't come enthusiastically. They came kicking and screaming. They all come kicking and screaming.
Those Saturday mornings when you're in 9th grade,
more school, more school.
More school.
They come kicking and screaming, especially for the first year or two, that 9th grade and 10th grade year. Yeah. And then you can see the transition. By the time they're juniors, it kind of kicks in and they're engaged. Now, one other full disclosure, we pay them for being in the program. We pay them X amount of dollars a year for every year they participated. So by the time they got to be juniors, they could see the money at the end of the road. So now they were more motivated than anything else about that. But they participated, and again, I hope they got something out of it, because believe me, a lot of work goes into that behind the scenes. Having been on the board and been the president, a lot of it. And like all nonprofits, fundraising is always an issue. And we were fortunate because we did get a lot of people corporations and businesses and individuals who donate to the program. We used to have 2 main fundraisers. One was a gala.
That was fun.
It was fun. You guys got to participate in that. Got to wear a tuxedo and the whole 9 yards. And we stopped doing that because it didn't bring a lot of money. It was a great event, but it didn't bring a lot of money. So our primary fundraiser now is a golf tournament. We just had it in August, and it's been very successful. We sell it out. It's a nice event, and it raises some money. It's kind of funny. After COVID, during the COVID lockdown, I guess people were looking for something to do, and a lot of individual donations started coming in, because we have a website that's pretty comprehensive. If you go to the website 100bmoc.org,
it'll be in the description below.
You can find all the things that's going on, all the things that have gone on, the history, the events that are scheduled. So when you become a chapter, you have to have the 4 initiatives, and education, mentoring, health and wellness, and economic development. And aside from the passport program, which is where we put most of our energy, we have done community events. We've done health and wellness events with collaboration with churches. We've done financial seminars with people about how to access money to start a small business, how to get home loans, how to refinance and stuff like that. You assume people know that, and a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't.
They don't. Yeah. And I do want to just give a shout out to all the mentors of 100 Black Men, Orange County. They volunteer their time. They're people that are successful and navigate the world in a way that got them to a great place, and they chose to give back to grumpy, unruly kids on their Saturday mornings.
That just seems to be what you do. I mean, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And the men in the organization are the same thing. And these are people who have full careers, have families, and all of that.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, a lot goes into coordinating and managing the program and doing that. We were talking earlier, we traveled to the national organization, and you guys participated in the competition there. I think we went to Atlanta once with you guys, and Florida once with you guys, and that was always a lot of fun. But it was like herding cats sometimes, when you're trying to manage a bunch of young men, who have all this energy. It was fun, but it was always beneficial. And I think if you talk to any of the members, they will say we get as much out of it as we put into it.
Right. Piggybacking off what Quentin said, you guys had a lot of grace, because I was a knucklehead back in high school.
Well, whether you stayed in the program, depending on how much the parents dug their heels in, you're doing this,
right?
You're doing this, and so. And again, that's good. That's kind of hard work, and that hasn't changed,
right?
I mean, now that we have 7th and 8th graders, they have a couple of years before they get to the ninth grade, the nitty-gritty of the program. Right. That's a good way to put it. Now, their program is a little different, and it kind of prepares them for, it's like junior high prepares you for high school.
Yes.
Well, the same thing. 7th and 8th grade years prepares you for getting to
Right.
the high school version of the program.
So that's kind of what I wanted to get into next. You mentioned 7th grade and 8th grade are added to the program, but can you just talk a little bit about how the program's developed from my time to all the different works you guys are doing now?
Well, initially when we started the program, it was from 9th grade to 12th. And then every year we would have a parent or somebody would contact us, and their son might be 7th grade or 8th grade. And they would say, well, my son isn't old, you wait till 2 years. And then among the education committee, everything in the organization is done by volunteer. We only have one person that's paid part-time to help with coordinating events and things like that. Everything else is done by volunteers. We have committees for just about everything. And that's how most of the work gets done. And the education committee overlooks the passport program. And so from 9 to 10th to 12th grade, we just started, we needed to start earlier. And so one of the things we've added to the program since you guys were in it is a whole lot more technology stuff, a whole lot more STEM stuff and STEAM stuff. The younger people, they had a project where they started and built their own ISIS device from scratch. The upperclassmen had a project where they worked with UCI grad students to build a drone from scratch.
That's dope.
Put it together.
Yeah.
And then fly them, see if they'll work. The last few years, we've gotten into the rocketry program. And they build a rocket from scratch, and then they go out to the desert with a lot of other organizations who were doing this rocketry program to see if they can get their rocket off the ground and recover it.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So we've done a lot more. You guys had a lot, when your involvement was, you were in the classroom a lot more. Yeah. We did do some social stuff, and did you go to the football games?
I remember football games. I remember the cultural fair. I remember
The cultural fair is amazing. I had a blast every time.
Right. We did that. Did we march did we do the Black History Parade?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first time. So during the parade, that was the first time I got to ride in a Rolls Royce. Because I was one of the marchers, but one year I think my legs were a little bit sore from football, and I was telling him about how much I was squatting, and he was like, come ride in the car with me. And I got to ride in the Rolls Royce. I was like, this is
so we tried
sweet.
to get you guys out of the classroom.
That's some cool stuff.
More and do some cool stuff, some excursions or whatever. Now with all this other stuff added, they may still be in the classroom, but it's a little bit more interactive.
Right.
It's a little bit more interactive than it was. And that's increased the enthusiasm for the program, because you take away some useful stuff. Initially, if I had to just sum it up, I think that the initial years we had it when we were 9 through 12, a lot of that was life skill stuff.
Yes.
Right. A lot of it was life skill, which is important.
Yeah.
Very.
We still do that part of the program. Yeah. But now we've added the STEM stuff, and I think it made it a little bit more interesting for the participants and kept them more active in it.
I think also it's two things. Very important exposure wise. I exposed myself to computer science. I started the hour of code at my high school, and I taught myself how to code when I was like 17. Mm-hmm. But I went to it was like a Hobie leadership program where I got exposed to more STEM stuff. So I think it's super cool that you guys added that in just for exposure wise, because they don't get exposed to the actual job fields of STEM as kids normally. All they think of when you say STEM, like, oh, I got to do more math. They don't think about it's building rockets and drones and stuff. So I think that's super cool. And then also we kind of talked about the regular school system in another pod. But I wanted to bring up that it's so cool that you guys' influences reached out to middle school, because all of us remember middle school, and it was like, that was like when we were the most impressionable. Mm-hmm. We already had like a hard butt attitude by 9th grade, but in middle school, we were a lot nicer. Like we were more willing to hear things. Things were new. We thought we were getting older because we were not in elementary school, so we assumed that we were close to adulthood. And we kind of had that little starry look in our eyes. And some middle schools try to really beat that out of you by the time you get to 9th grade. So I think it's amazing that you guys have reached, gotten that farther demographic because a lot of people, their middle schools where a lot of weird stuff happens, and it's good to have hopefully an organization that can give some of these kids a healthier true north as they're growing up. So when you first talked about that, I got super excited.
And one of the things we did with the younger people, we tasked the juniors and seniors with mentoring them.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
so so it's about, because again, community service was part of the program,
Right? Yeah.
and reciprocity. You'll say, because you've been through this period of time. One of the things I used to tell the young men in the program, I was once your age, so every thought you had, I've had. every thought you've had, your father has had.
Right.
I mean, there's not much new when it comes to human nature. Yeah, and so and I tell my sons that, and then later, now that they're adults, they say, "Yeah, Dad, you were right about that." I say, "Yeah."
Yeah, there's nothing my parents could have said when I was in high school to make me feel like they understood.
No.
I was like, "Nah, you guys don't."
No. And that's good. That's all part of the process. It really is. And again, it's always amazing when somebody reaches out to me and they say something and they say, "Oh yeah, I was in the program," or when I run into somebody someplace, and and then I'm trying to remember, because God, in 28 years, I've seen hundreds of people come too.
Yeah.
And hundreds of families and that kind of stuff. And every now and then I still run into or have contact with people, and that's always good. And it's always fun and to realize what happened to that young person.
Right.
What happened to that person? What happened to him?
How would you summarize your time at the 100 Black Men? If you could summarize it like in one phrase, in one word, and if someone has never heard of 100 Black Men of Orange County before, what is like one thing that you would say to them?
Well, for me personally, the involvement in the program has been inspiring. It's just to know that the future is secure. The people behind us will do things that advance society and life. For me personally, I think that's what has kept me here for 28 years. Every time I think and say, okay, maybe it's time to move on, I re-enlist. I think it would be inspiring when people hear about the program and the title, the name of the program, kind of the name of the organization, kind of gets everybody's attention.
Right.
And when you start talking about what they do, what it is the organization does, then they get more inspired about it. Say, oh, that's really neat. Talk about all the process and everything else. There's always going to be a need for people to help younger people get to adulthood.
Right.
That's the nature. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what life is about.
Yeah.
And this group does it. Well, a lot of groups do a great job, and we've interacted with other groups that mentor kids. We've interacted with groups that have programs for young women. We've interacted with groups that are different colors. We've opened some sessions to the greater community in case they wanted to be involved. We say, we're having a session on this. If you have some kids who want to get involved or want to come listen to it, you're welcome to do that. And I think for me, we still do it better than anybody.
I would agree.
And we've seen the results of it.
Yeah. We've seen the results. Yeah.
Impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Over a long, the impact over a long period of time. We've been at this now for 28 years.
Yeah.
And so, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. It's still worth the sleepless nights and trying to think about, okay, what are we going to do this? And, whatever it is, whatever the issue is. And we've always, and it's kept us growing. It's kept us growing as well. Like I said, we get as much from the program as we put into it.
I pulled this up because I think this encompasses my time with 100 Black Men, and everyone in this room knows what this is. But I want to leave any young Black man, any Black youth that gets to see this pod. I want to leave you with this, and I hope that you replay this and listen to these words, think about them, and I hope this stirs something within you. And to everyone else, I hope you understand this is, I think, what the spirit of 100 Black Men is rooted in. It's always stuck with me, and it's always helped me find my center when I've been going through hard times. So without further ado, standing in the river, truly in the flow of human development, African Black community is a river. And we who call ourselves African people are standing deep in its waters. And with amazing grace, we are beginning to recognize the ancient flow of human wisdom, as well as the indelible marks of human development. The river of the African community speaks to and through us. African males and females must listen to the laughter and the pain and feel the sorrow and the strength of our river. Black people, we are standing in the river. Alone, we shall be swept away by its current. United, we can know the many rivers to cross. Combined, the river will guide us to higher ground. Singularly, we are halted by its torrid banks. As one, the river shall carry us to a distant place. As one people, the river shall return us to the source. Black people, we are standing in the river, transformed and transforming.
You still know that. Huh? You guys have to remember
Yeah,
that.
pretty
That-
good.
that
Stuck with
comes
me.
in and out.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just remember like an extra. I'm like,
So one last thing, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but how can people get involved if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate?
Well, I mean, we have a comprehensive website,
Okay.
you
It's
know,
very
and
good.
it has all the information on it about how to get involved if you want to be a member, how to sign up if you want to sign your young man up for the program. There's a calendar of events on it, lots of historical stuff and pictures of things we've done in the past and that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. The website is, again, pretty comprehensive, has all kinds of contact information on it. It's really easy to figure out how to get involved.
And we'll have it across the bottom as you're saying all that. So
Wow.
it'll be on the screen.
Yeah.
Good.
I think that's a wrap, Bill.
That's
we
good.
appreciate
It's been
you for
exciting
coming.
seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm
Dude.
trying to picture you all those years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting to see you've grown up to become men and dealing with the world,
Yeah.
successfully. And so that's always good. Love to see that.
You and all the mentors of our time in the chapter of Orange County is definitely a part of our story. So we
Good.
appreciate you guys.
Good. Glad to hear that.